Hi guys, I'm not sure whether you watched the previous video that I posted, okay, but then just to let you know, I'm launching 2 new classes for those who is sitting for October-November sessions exam. So if you're interested to join, the details is in the description box. Fill up the Google form and I will reach out to you. Okay, without further ado, let's continue with the video. Bye-bye.
Okay, so we are back at it again. Today we are solving October-November 2021, set 42 here. So without further ado, let's start with our questions. Okay, so the first one is ratio question, pretty straightforward. The steps goes by finding the total ratio first, that is by adding 8, 7 and 3 up all together. You should get an 18. And out of this 453s, they wanted you to prove. So I just put 8, which is the ratio of the apple tree over 18. So let's check. So we get 200. That pretty much fulfilled the question requirement here. So repeat the same steps for part 2 because they were just asking for palm trees. So I changed the 8 into 3. And you should be able to get the results here as 75. So Malena wants to increase the numbers of pear trees by 32%. Okay, so for pear trees you have to take 450 minus 200, that is the apple one, and 75, which is the plum, get 175. So increase by 32%. Okay, notice I didn't put 132% this time around because they were just asking us to increase 32% of it. Okay, they weren't asking for the total amount of tree but the extra. So I just key in 56 will do. Okay, they are trying to trick you here. If you didn't read the question carefully, then you might fall for it. Part 4, each apple tree produced 48.5 kg of apples. Okay, average gram of 165 grams. Okay, so 200 trees, 48.5. Okay, and then this 48.5 you have to divide it with 165 grams. So the problem is, for you to change kg into gram, you must make sure that you multiply it by 1000. So 200 times 48.5 times 1000. Then the denominator will be 165. So you actually get 58,787.87, which is approximately 59,000 apples all together. Okay, so I forgot to mention one thing, which is I don't have the marking scheme for this, so maybe some of the answers might be wrong. Okay, I'm just doing the question entirely on my own. So if you have any question or any things you wanted me to correct, you can let me know in the comment section, then I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, moving on to part B. Malena lands is valued at $3,075,000. $3,075,000. Okay, write it in standard form. That will be 3.075. You have to count how many times you have to shift. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 10 to the power of 6 at the back of it. That should be the answers in standard form. Section C, 2020, each palm tree produced 37.7 kg of plums. It was 16%, so 116%. Okay, and then this was 2019, and you will get 37.7. So 2019, you have to get it by taking 37.7 divided by 116%. So you get your answer as 32.5 kilogram overall. Section D, Malaysia invested 1,008 at a rate of 2.1% per year compound interest at the end of 15 years. 15 years later, how much would it be? So we actually get your answer as 2,458.43. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Because it's related to money, I try not to round it. Okay, I'll just leave it at 2,458.43. Moving on, we have question 2 here. They were asking for the median. So keyword here was that there's a total of 80 houses. So with this 80 houses, okay, half of it is 40 houses. So let's track it from here and then bring it down. So you get the answers as 90. Okay, so from here, okay, 50%. Lower quarter means 25%. So if you take 80 times 25%, if not mistaken, you get 20 from it. So when you trace from the 20th, you will get the results as 68, I think. Yep, it's 68. And then for the interquartile range, that will be from 60, you trace it back. So 60th, you trace it down, you get the results as 120. So 120 minus 68, you will get your answers basically. That will be 52 meters square. Okay. Moving on to section B, estimate the mean. So to calculate this, you will need your midpoint basically. So the midpoint goes by 40 plus 60 divided by 2. We have 50, we have 70, we have 90. 130 plus 100 divided by 2, that would be 115. 130 plus 160 divided by 2. 145, and lastly 180 if not mistaken. Okay. Now that you have all the results, to calculate the mean, you have to take the midpoint, multiply it with 14, add it up with 70 times 17, add it up with 90 times 18, continue the addition. So there's a total of 80 of them, then you should be able to get your results. So your final answer will be 97.5. Moving on to frequency density. So to verify whether there's skill factor involvement or not, I will actually use the results that they gave us as a reference. Okay, so here is 0.6, here is 0.7. So the first one, it was given as 0.7. And to verify that, I have to take my 14 divided by 60 minus 40. So you get your answers as 0.7. If they matches up, which they match up here, means that there's no scale factor involvement. So you can just proceed with your calculation for the rest of the variables here. So for example, for the 80 to 100 group, I will have to take my 18 divided by 20 basically. You get it as 0.9, which it was located somewhere around here. So this is for our first answer. Moving on, we have 100 to 130. So that tells us that the 15th and then the difference is 30. So from this, you get 0.5. So 0.5, it will be here. Moving on, we have 9 over 30. Here we get 0.3. 0.3 will be this. Okay, then one last one. We have 7 over 40. Okay, so for this, are you sure? Yeah, it's 7 over 40. So it's 0.175. 0.1 is here. 0.15 is here. Which means it was half of this fourth box here. Finish it up. This should be your final answer. Okay, that's it. Moving on, 2 of the houses are picked at random. Find the probability are greater than 130. Okay, and the other is 60 or less. Okay, greater than 130, which means it will include 9 and 7. Okay, followed by the other house chosen at random. Okay, they didn't mention whether it was without replacement or not, but I assume it's here, and then lesser than 60, that will be 14. The problem that I have here is that they didn't mention it was which one come first. Okay, it can be the other way around. It can be lesser than 60 first, then followed by more than 130. So I will write it twice and run the calculation here. So your final answer for this will be 28 over 395. So I wouldn't write it in decimal form because there's too many results and I couldn't round it anyway. So I just leave it in fraction and it will be simpler, this arrangement. Question 3a. Okay, they asked us to find AD. Okay, so with this 64 and when we have 46.1, AD is here, which is the opposite of the 64, and this is the adjacent. So let's double check that. Tangent 64 equals to AD over 46.1. So I take my 46.1, multiply with tangent 64, you should be able to get the results as 94.5 after correcting it to 1 decimal place. And then we have our angle BAC here, okay, that they are looking for the value of it. So for this is actually a sine rule. So I key in the opposite side, and then I have our 94 degree with 78.4 there. So angle BAC will be by having sine 94 times 56.5 and then divide it by 78.4 first. And then this entire thing will be sine inverse. So you get your final answer as 45.96, or if you were to round it into 3 significant figures, you actually get 46 at the end of the day as the angles here. As for the next one, calculate the largest angle in CAD. That we will have to assume, okay, by filling it up all the details. So this part here, if let's say I said it was 46, the other will be 180 minus 94 minus 46, you'll get 40 here. And then we have 180 minus 90 and minus 64, you get 26. So we only have left with this 3 degrees here. and they want us to calculate the largest angle in it. So they gave us 94.5. So with this, we actually have all the angles here already. By looking at it, we can use cosine rule to identify them all. Okay, so it's actually AD square equals to CD square plus AC square minus 2 CD 8C cos DCA. And then what I did was I brought cos DCA here, and I have 2 times everything. After the readjustment, we have CD square plus AC square minus AD square 2 times AC. Okay, so everything is correct. So automatically through this calculation we get our final answer. So our angle DCA is the largest one. Okay, some of you might wonder why. Because it has the largest side. This 94.5 here. So to get to that, you have to key in cosine inverse. 78.4 square plus 38.6 square minus 94.5 square. Divide it with 78.4 and 38.6. Then you get your final answer as 102.34 or 102.3 to be exact. So this will be the largest angle here. Moving on, we have our section B. They say that PQR has the same area as LMN. Okay, they ask us to calculate the shortest distance, okay, to PQ. So keyword here was that shortest distance is referring to the height of this triangle here. So maybe I set it as x, half times x times 34.3 will be equals to the other shortcut formula here, that will be half times 21.5 times 27.6 and our sine 111. So this is actually a shortcut formula for irregular triangle area calculation. So to find your x, basically you have to key in everything. 0.5 times 21.5 times 27.6 times sine 111, and then divide it with 0.5 times 34.3. So you get your x results as 16.15 through the calculation. So it wasn't crazy hard, okay, but the keyword here was shortest distance, which implied that from R you draw a line, okay, make sure it forms a right angle, and that's the height of this triangle here. Okay, so through this calculation you get 16.15. Moving on to question 8, they want triangle A with a vector of -4 and 5. So I only choose one of the points here as reference. I shifted to the left by 4 steps and then went up by 5 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it appears here, here, and here. So let's join the lines. Now that we have everything, we can find out the answers. Okay, so this will be our A number 1. Okay, and then reflection on the line x equals to 1, that will be this one here. This is the reflection line. Okay, and then you will have to erase it later. So reflected 2 steps to the back. So your answers will be appearing here, and here, and here. So that's how it looks like. At the end. So this will be my A number 2. Then lastly, we have an enlargement with a scale factor of 2 from the center, -5, -2. So it's from here, they want us to enlarge our A into something bigger. So all this line here that I draw is just for reference. Okay, the key point was hidden here because it was a 2 box. 2 times 2, it will becomes 4. So I checked which part has 4 and it was located here. One, two, three, four, five. Okay, this one is not, doesn't qualify. So it might be this, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. So this is how I get my reference point. And then I can now proceed with my final drawings. 2 box slanted. And then lastly, another 2 box. The scale factor is +2. That's why I didn't make it inverted or anything. So I just leave it as it is. As for next one, a single transformation that describes A to B. So this one is clearly a rotation. And the point of rotation here is hidden somewhere around. Let me double check. Okay, found it. If not mistaken, it is this at -3 and this. Okay, so here is a 90, which means that for the answers that I'm gonna write will be 90 degree. It's a rotation, and then I would say it's an anti-clockwise. Rotation 90 degree anti-clockwise, yes. Okay, 90 degree anti-clockwise from the point of rotation -3, 0. Okay, that's how you get your final answer for this section B here of your question 4. Moving on, we are now at question 5. Okay, we are required to plot all this out by keying into calculator to the power of 3 -3 -1 to the power of 2 plus 3. So you get -1 as the result of this, then followed by our 1.5. So you will get it as -0.375. And then lastly, when it is 3, okay, you have to update everything. So your final answer would be 3. So -1, -1, that results will be located here. -0.5 and then 2.125. Okay, 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4. Okay, it's kind of weird on the value that they gave us, but it's roughly around here. 0, it will be 3, and then -5 will be 2.375. 2.375, so maybe somewhere around this. Then 1.5 and -3.75, and then 2 -1. 2.5 is -1.125, and and then lastly 3 and 3. Okay, it's very troublesome to draw, but it should look like something like this when it is fully drawn. Okay, so that's it. By drawing a suitable line on the grid, okay, they now want you to compare. So we have x cubed, no changes. But we have a negative 3x squared, okay, correct. So the difference here comes in when one is plus 3 and the other one is x plus 1. So I have to add in a additional 2 here, which applies to both sides, and I have to get rid of this x to the back. So now I have x cubed minus 3x squared plus 3. Okay, and then for the back I have negative x plus 2. So what they wanted us to draw was this negative x plus 2 here. So I draw a box for my own reference. When x is 0, y is 2. When x is 1, y is 1. So with this point that I have here, I can now draw the line and find the intersection. So there should be 3 results total. So let's double check, see whether we can get the accurate results or not. Okay, kindly take note the answers is based on the drawings. So some of it might not be as accurate, but there's an acceptable range for your answers from this particular section in your marking scheme. So I will double check when the marking scheme is released, but for the time being, this will be the temporary answers that I'm gonna give you. So the first one will be 1, no changes on that. The next one will actually be this. That is about 425, I suppose. 0.4, 0.425. Okay, negative 0.425 because it haven't arrived at 5 yet. And the last one here is 2.1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, 2.425. Okay, so that will be my final answer for this entire part here. Okay, so if you have anything that you don't understand, feel free to leave it in the comment section and I will try my best to help you out on this. Moving on to question 6 is just your normal expansion. Okay, I wouldn't multiply the 4 into it because I can just take 24 divided by 4, I get 6. 2x equals to 9 because my negative 3 shift to the other side, it becomes plus. And then x will be 9 over 2, which is 4.5. The next one here will be 6 minus 14. You get negative 8. Negative 8 divided by 6, you will get it as negative 4 over 3. Okay. And then moving on to section B, make y the subject. So I have to bring my 3y cubed to the other end. And I have this to get rid of the 3. Entire thing will be divided by 3. And lastly, to find y only, you have to introduce a cube root. And this will be your final answers with workings attached. Section C, show that 2n minus 5 bracket square minus 13 is a multiple of 4 for all integer value of n. So to prove that, just key in a random value, maybe when n is 1 today. 2 minus 5 squared minus 13, you will get it as 9 minus 13. So from this you will get negative 4. So it is a multiple of 4, or you can prove it by what else? Maybe I can expand it out to check. So let's say it is 2n minus 5 square. Okay, it's too good to be true. It looks too easy, which indicates that the workings might not be as simple.
So when I expanding these brackets here, I was thinking that I might be wrong. So I'm actually trying to figure out what else was the question asking us to do. So as I expand, I noticed that all of the factors here, okay, 4n squared minus 20n, and also our 12 here, they are all related to 4. So you can then extract 4 from it. That's how you prove that they are multiples of 4.
So for this, I prefer to arrange it in the format that I am familiar with, which is this. Then I start my completing the square by extracting the negative 2 out from everyone. It will affect my positive 12, and I change it into negative 6x and negative 5 over 2 respectively. So I'll be focusing on these two only, and since they are using minus, immediately I know that I'm using a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. So my a is x basically, while my negative 6x is my negative 2ab. Get rid of the negative, 2xb equals to 6x, b would be 3. So with that, I can arrange it in this particular format. And then I have my negative 5 over 2, okay, as well as minus 3 being squared. Complete my calculation first before I multiply the negative 2 back into everyone. So you will get it as negative 23 over 2. Multiply your negative 2 into everything that you have there. You get negative 2x minus 3 squared. So our p here is the negative 3, while our q is the 23. So it will be easier if I arrange in this format so that you can see it better. Okay. As for the next one, finding the maximum point, kindly take note all you have to do is to focus on the brackets inside here. So x minus 3 equals to 0, x would be 3. Maximum point here also referring to the turning point. And when your x is 3, your y will be the 23 outside here, which is the integer value outside the brackets. Okay. That's pretty much it. Moving on to E. Okay, energy of an object is moving directly proportional to the square of its speed. So you know E equals to k speed square. The speed increase by, calculate the percentage increase of the objects.
So for this question here, I totally fell for the trap when I saw the term directly proportional. So normally when we solve directly proportional question, they will actually give you the necessary details for you to find the scale factor and such. But for this particular question here, all the information is very limited, and the only hint that they gave was 30%. So to get this question done, okay, instead of treating it like a proportional question, what you have to do is to approach it like a percentage. So the only difference here is that you will see me taking 100%, which is the original amount, adding with the 30% here, okay, and then through reading the question, they mentioned that we must actually square it. So when you key in 130% being squared, you actually get your results as 1.69 or 169% here. So if you key in 169% as the final answer, you won't get the full marks. Okay, but instead, because they mentioned percentage change, you will have to use 169% minus off with our 100% and get your final results as 69%.
Moving on to question 7a, the diagram shows a container from a storing grain. Okay, hemisphere, cylinder, and then a cone. Alright. Calculate the volume of the hemisphere. Okay, so hemisphere means half of the sphere formula that they gave. And then the R here was given as 2. So just keep it up, then you should be able to get your answers. Okay, and then they want us to give it in pi form, so it will be 16/3 pi as my final results. Moving on with the volume sorted out for the top. This is for the hemisphere, and then we can calculate. Okay, then we have our cylinder here, which is pi r squared times h. Pi times r squared times h, that will be our 5.2 here, and then lastly 1/3 times pi times 2 times h equals to 88 pi over 3. Okay, first of all, if you don't want to key in the pi, you can skip it for now, because all of them as pi, it will be automatically cancelled. And then all you have to do is to take your 88/3 and then minus 16/3, and then you minus your 2 squared times 5.2. Okay, so you now have 4/3h equals to 16/5. You take your answers now, divide it with 4/3, you should be able to get your results as 2.4 as the height. Okay, so this is how I get my 4/3h. 2 squared is 4, 4 divided by 3 is 4/3. Okay. Moving on, the container is full of grain. Grain is removed from the container at a rate of 35,000 kg per hour. 1 meter cube of grain has a mass of 620. Find the time needed for it to clear out entirely. So for every 1 meter there's 620. So for our 88 pi over 3, we have to multiply by 620 first and divide it with 35,000. So 88/3 pi times 620 divided by 35,000. You will get 1 hours at first. So from this results, minus it by 1 and then convert the remaining into minutes. So 37.94588 minutes. So since they wanted it to completely empty the container, I can round up the results by putting in 38 minutes. Okay, that will be the time needed for it to drain the entire container here. Moving on, area of the shaded segment is 65 centimeters square. Okay, so to find the shaded part, I have to take my sector and then minus the triangle. Sector's area goes by half. Okay, 140 over 360 times pi times r squared minus half AB sine 140. And this, you get it as 65. Okay, so from here we can now key in 140 divided by 360 times pi. Okay, we get 7 over 18 pi r squared. 0.5 times sine 140, you will get it as 0.312. Okay, but I cannot write it in fraction form, so I just have to copy the entire thing first and then take out the r square. Okay, so from here what we have to do will be by taking 65 divided by 7 over 18 minus our answers. Okay, and then from here square root the results, you will get your RS 31. Okay, so to verify, okay, I'm not quite confident with my calculator here, so I'm gonna run the calculation manually again. Okay, because sometimes it doesn't work when I use the answers function. See, knew there's some problem here. So I didn't put in my pi here. No wonder there's this issue. So I'm gonna try keying everything again. Seven over 18 pi 0.32139380484, and then square root these answers here. Our R will be 8.4967766, which is approximately 8.5 then. So I will double check using 8.5. Okay, so it's correct. So my R here will be 8.5 at the end of the day. Okay, moving on to our question 8. Kaito runs along 12 kilometers path on an average of 8 kilometers per hour. Okay, they ask you the time taken. So speed equals to distance over time. Time wasn't given to us. They wanted you to find the time, so distance over speed then. So our distance here was 12, our speed was x. So that will be the expression that I'm writing down. Yuki takes 1.5 hours longer to walk along the same path as Kaido. She walks at an average of x minus 4. For the same distance, this will be Yuki's. Okay, Yuki clearly took a longer time because the speed was slower, and the difference between Yuki and Kaito is 1.5 hours. So what they want us to do is to try to make the denominator the same here. Okay, then calculate it out and rearrange it accordingly. So from here you will get 12x minus 12x plus 48 equals to 1.5 x multiplied with x minus 4. So your 12x minus 12x, there's nothing left. We have 48. 1.5x squared minus 6. Okay, to get rid of the 1.5, okay, everything will be divided by 1.5 now. Negative 6 divided by 1.5, you get negative 4x. Negative 48 divided by 1.5, you get negative 32. So that's how I prove it was x squared minus 4x and minus 32. Okay, solve by factorization. You can actually use a calculator to do this for you. A is 1, B is negative 4, and C is negative 32. So through this, you actually get two brackets. Okay, you have to show them about this. So you have x equals to negative 4 or x equals to 8. That's how you secure the full 3 marks here. Okay, so for the last part 4 here, find the numbers of hours Yuki to walk along the 12 kilometers path. So all you have to do is to take 12 and then put 8 minus 4. So because you are trying to walk here, you are not slowing down or whatsoever. So the negative 4 will be irrelevant in this case. So it will take 3 hours for Yuki to complete this 12 kilometers journey here. A bus travels at 440 kilometers, corrected to the nearest 10 kilometers. So the rounding value of this will be by 10 dividing by 2. You have to decide between to add 5 or minus 5. To complete the journey nearest half an hour. Nearest half an hour means that it is 0.5 of an hour, and then you have to divide it by 2. You have to decide to add 0.25 or minus 0.25. They wanted the lower bound, which means the distance must be lesser and your speed must be higher, so that the final outcome will be smallest, okay, which fulfill the lower bound here. Our distance must be decreased, so 440 minus by 5, while our speed, for our time here, okay, sorry, it's a timer, I put the wrong value. Time must increase, so it will be 6.25 hours. So it will be 69.6 kilometers per hour. So let's double check. 440 minus 5, 6.25. Okay, so this will be our section B's results. Moving on to question 9, they were asking us for the coordinates of G. So this vector here represents changes in x and changes in y. So from the point 5, negative 2, after the changes of negative 2 and 3, it will arrive at 3 and 1. So this is the exact coordinates, 3, 1 here. So the so-called 5FG means that you have to take the 5 and multiply into both of the changes in x and changes in y. You get negative 10 and 15 respectively. And the last one is magnitude. Okay, it's not modulus here, that in vector, the two lines represents magnitude. All you have to do is to use your Pythagoras theorem, negative 2 being squared, added up with 3 being squared. So you have 4 plus 9, that will be square root 13. If you were to write it in decimal form, they might accept results that is in this. Okay, 3.61. Moving on to section B. Okay, we are at the last few page now. Finding AQ. So before that, I will actually complete everything that they gave us. Kindly take note, because it's a parallelogram, A to B will be the same as C. But since they mentioned Q is the midpoint, that would make the entire thing half C and half C with the arrow attached. BC will be corresponding to OA, which is A basically. Okay, so with this information, we can now proceed with our calculation, where our AQ is basically half C with no workings attached. You will find the answers basically. OQ, however, you will go through OA first, followed by AQ, which the answer will be A plus half C. Okay, moving on to part 2, they want us to prove that they are a straight line. So all you have to do is to run and compare between these two, basically. So one has a power of 2/3 A plus 1/3 C. You have to try to draw a connection between these two variables here, where if I were to take out 1/3 from each of them, you have A and then 2A with a C. To further the calculation, I can take out 2 from both of them. So now I have A and then 1/2 of. So with that, you will know that OP is actually 2/3 of OQ. So that's how you draw the connection, and you can say that they are now on a straight line with a scale factor. Okay, moving on to the last part, they're asking us for the ratio of OP and OQ. OP is this, and OQ is here. OQ is basically 3 parts and this is 2 parts. So you know it's 2 to 3. And if they wanted to make it 1, which means you must divide that by 2 on both sides. 1 to 1.5 or 3/2 basically. Okay, you can write it as 1.5 if you wanted to make it in the easier form. So that's how I find the results here. Moving on to question 10. Okay, they ask us for the turning point, which means you need to find your dy dx. So the steps goes by taking out the power, multiply the value at the front since there's nothing, so just 3. If there's x, the power will be decreased by 1 after you took out the power. So here it's just 1. 1 you take it out, multiply with -12, no changes. But 1 minus 1 will become 0 now. Integer you don't have to do because there's no x there. So the final answer for this would be this format. And since they mentioned turning point, means that everything will be equals to 0. So your x squared results will be 4 and your x will be plus minus 2. When x is 2, your y results will be this. 2 to the power of 3 minus 12 times 2 plus 6. So you get -10 for this. And for the other one, if it's -2 today, here you will get it as 22. Okay, that's how you find the answer. Lastly, they were asking for turning point, okay, for maximum and minimum. So I have to find my d2y dx2, which is to differentiate the results that we have here again. So there's only one x there, I bring out the 2, so you get 6x. So all you have to do is when your x is 2, your d2y dx2 is 12. If your d2y dx2 is more than 0, that would make it a minimum point. However, when your x is -2, your d2y dx2 will be -12, and then you can say that since your d2y dx2 is lesser than 0, -2 and 22 is maximum point. Okay, this is the ideal solution to solve this part B here. And then lastly, we are dealing with our mathematically similar question. So they asked us to find y and z basically. So the only comparison that we have to do is to draw this up. So our yz will basically be 15.3 times 13.6 divided by 20.4. So your final answer will be 10.2. Okay, that's it for our yz's calculation. However, they now gave us that if let's say this is 63.6, because it is an area, the method that I use here is comparison. So I have to divide it with 13.6 that was given to us. And then PQR's area, I just leave it in square root form first and took the same side of 20.4. Kindly make sure that the 13.6 and 20.4 must be from the same side. So to find PQR's area, all you have to do is to take 20.4 times 63.6, divide it with 13.6, and remember to square it in order to get rid of the square roots effect. So you will get your answers as 143.1. And then let's double check. Two containers are mathematically similar. Okay. So they gave you capacity. When you saw the word capacity, means you have to use cube root for this. Area, you just put square. Okay, square root basically. Okay, as for the other one, it's a smaller container of 37.5, and then you just put square root. Okay, to find the area of the small container, it will be by taking 0.792 times cube root of 37.5 divided with cube root of 64.8, and lastly square this thing up, then you should be able to get the results. So square root of 0.792 times cube root of 37.5 divided with cube root of 64.8. Okay, so my final answer of this, okay, kindly remember you have to square them up, so it will be 0.55 at the end. Okay, so capacity means you have to cube it, surface area means you have to square root. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this paper. I personally find this question super confusing. Okay, where is it? Yeah, this thing here from our question 6E. Okay, I don't really understand what it meant or what they're asking us to find, but if I were to be forced to do this, this is how I'm gonna write it. And the other question was this questions, which one? Question 6 as well, the section C here. So for the time being, this is the temporary marking guide that I can provide to you here. Section B might be hard for someone, okay, because if you couldn't notice that the shortest distance is the height of the triangle, you might not be able to draw the connection in the area part. The rest is pretty much standard. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this paper. I hope you find it helpful. If any question, feel free to leave it in the comment section and I will get back to you as soon as possible. So that's pretty much it. wish you all the best in your upcoming examination. Bye bye.